Number 4 is what was described to me as the Fishtown area. And that is, let's see, kind of the yellow block on the map to the east of the larger red block. We're defining it as properties between Washington Avenue and Madison Street from the marina area that's north of Water Street, running down towards 3rd Street.
Ray's Auto Marine presents Transparency. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Transparency 5. You're looking at a map of the Ludington Bayou. At the beginning, you saw the Ludington Planning Commission maybe at its worst. Every government, every municipality has a government that has a planning commission, a zoning board, and this group out of Traverse City are a group that works on sustainability, or as some say, that's another word for climate change. But most importantly, they're looking to take care of the watershed. The Transparency 4 was all about the watershed and coming up with the Watershed Council. Have you thought about getting involved with your watershed? It is, after all, the water that you drink. It goes out into Lake Michigan. This is the center of it. How many additives do you want in your drinking water? You need to ask yourself that question. Not just in Ludington, from coast to coast. So we're going to play the rest of this Planning Commission meeting. We're going to show you some documents, some emails from the city manager. That was John Shay, the city manager of City of Ludington that you saw that's sitting to the far right of the video. And you're going to see an email from him, and you just see how he feels about this. And one thing I want to point out is the presenter brings up the name of Fishtown. And he's calling this area Fishtown. Let me scoot this out a little bit. He talks about the boundaries starting a little north of Water Street where the marinas are. Well, here's Ray's Auto Marine right here. Coming back down and coming to the south to 3rd Street. And down here is Copian Park that they talk about. Now, I remember Copian Park when I was a young boy. And we would go put our boat in down there. This was a gravel road with a boat launch. It was nothing special. But your taxpayers' dollars paid to have that paved with non-porous pavement, so the coal tar from that can wash into the Pere Marquette Lake as well. Actually, here in this whole presentation talking about lessening pavements that are more permeable. The water can move through them and get into the ground rather than run into the watershed that you should have seen in Transparency 4. Subscribe to Transparency so you know when these come up. It's okay, we're going to cut off right here and we're going to splice right in to the remaining portion of the discussion of this area that you see from the bayou into 3rd Street. What does Ludington decide that they want to do with this area?
And the goal here is to encourage rehabilitation and adaptive reuse of the historic buildings in the area for a mix of commercial, residential, and cultural uses that cultivates kind of a fisherman's village theme.
This one is really new to me. Did I miss something on this one? Or I'm not against it, but I haven't heard this before.
Well, it was on the previous map, and actually I was going to ask you about it because you know Fourth Ward so well.
Right, but
And it seems like quite a large area to me, but who has history with this, who can talk about the Fishtown?
I don't recall this really having much of a focus in the past. I do know we've had some issues in this area with that bayou area itself in terms of some of the surrounding property owners would like the city to dredge that area to help them be able to use more of their boat slips that are currently unusable because of the shallow lake water, although the lake levels are coming up. But that's really been it that I can recall in terms
Okay.
of this area. And some of the estimates we got to dredge that area approached upwards of $1.6 million. So, like the council's indicated, the city is not in a position
To do the dredging.
to do that. And I wouldn't want to raise expectations to simply where we can't fulfill that.
Yeah, I think the goal or the intent of defining this as a redevelopment area is not necessarily looking at the actual uses within the water, but trying to encourage adaptive reuse of the historic buildings and kind of create more of a vibrant, multi-block section of the city that has residential uses, maybe some arts or cultural uses, office space, potential retail, and places where people might be able to live and work out of the same building, and create almost like an artist colony type of place down in that section of the city. That seemed to be the general gist of where that was going. But if that's not an appropriate goal for development there, maybe we need to address that.
Well, I wouldn't rule that out. The new bridge there
Mm-hmm.
has helped greatly with pedestrian walkability right there. People can walk across the bridge safely now. That's a big boon.
Sure.
And that area has been targeted for a number of years as part of a pathway from the Coast Guard station along the lake connecting down to Copian Park. So Copian Park is a great resource that could be part of that too, picnicking and boating and kayaking and canoeing and stuff like that. But and then the old buildings there, that's a lot of privately owned stuff there.
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that's with this redevelopment strategy, that's fine if they're privately owned properties within the development areas. It's just a matter of the city identifying which areas they'd like to see redevelopment or development occur. And then through the MEDC program, if the city chooses to pursue that, MEDC helps with ensuring that your approval processes are in line and work with developers with their needs as they come to the city for future redevelopment projects. And then somewhere down the line, if there are specific sites or areas within any of these districts, the MEDC helps you promote those to private developers.
I wonder if we could maybe consider a different name.
Sure. Fishtown?
Village / Copian Park or something.
Okay.
Because Copian Park is a very dear destination for Fourth Ward residents too.
And how far south is that park, Joe?
It's right, do you see Clayton?
Yes.
Yeah, it's right there by
Okay.
Clayton.
It's that little, see the little peninsula that
Sure.
sticks out right to the west?
Mm-hmm.
That is the Copian Park area.
Okay.
That actually makes a lot of sense to me too, because it seems like we're designating an area and we don't even know what we're doing. I mean, a Fishtown idea is nice and I'm not against it either, but that name change at least to me makes a connection. Oh, we want to develop that area by the park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and it is, I mean, growing up in Fourth Ward and stuff, that is a really unique area because it's on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could develop some really interesting places there.
Sure.
And you can oversee PM Lake and, it does have some really old buildings there. But I just was wondering where that came from because I hadn't heard that before, Dusty. And again, I'm not against it either, but I don't know where it came up.
Yeah, the basis for a lot of these redevelopment areas have been based on discussions with the Community Development Office at the city. And so they're just as ideas, as a way for me to wrap my brain around potential sites or areas within the city that might be ripe for redevelopment, because, me being an outsider, I sometimes need some help
Right.
from folks who live here on what those places might be. And so that was one place that came up. And it seems like there's been some potential discussion about what could happen there in the future.
I think it's got potential. I really do.
I think it's a
And
great area there.
Yeah, and
You got the yacht club there and stuff.
if I'm not mistaken, that area, I think, is specifically called out in the zoning ordinance as well, to have that kind of mix of uses that reflects the historic character and walkability. So there's already some planning for that type of redevelopment there anyhow.
Yeah, I was looking across at at the peninsula when I think of Fishtown in the fishing shanties and all. I kind of associate that more with the channel on the west side of PM Lake. But I've only been here for 7 years too, so I don't really know the town. But Copian
Yeah.
is
I think that's a great name.
Copian Hill or something if you wanted. I forgot that it's so hilly there. So and again, I'm not against the name. It's just I never heard it referred to as that.
Fishtown is a historic name for that area because Lundy Boat Company and everything was back in there 100 years ago, correct?
right, Lundy's got that boat, yeah. But I've never heard it. Have you?
I only heard it when I worked with Heather at the city. That's Fishtown. And that was, but I mean, I didn't know the history behind it either. And I had lived in Ludington almost my whole life. So I think it is kind of important to keep that Fishtown name in there because it's a learning opportunity for our community. I don't disagree that Copian should be included in it because it is a focal point of that area, but I think it's look at how many questions it's raising here. What is Fishtown?
Mhm.
I think that's really important for the younger generation. I'm not that far removed from them, but just in high school even, going to school in Ludington, I never knew what that area was for. I just always thought it was marinas and nothing else. I didn't know that we had such a history in that area.
There's a lot of charter boats that land there,
Okay.
that house there.
Well, yeah, they can't get in now because of the.
Well, they can now, but they couldn't last year. They can.
Yeah, I spent a lot of my childhood, in fact, in the Lundy Boat Company, because they were neighbors of mine, and it was my best friend. And I had never heard of it called Fishtown.
No,
I only heard of it, like I said, by that name when I interned with the city of Ludington, but I think it kind of brings us back to what that area is historic for, and I think that's an important factor.
All right. Before we move on to the next one, can somebody spell Copian for me?
C-O-P-E-Y-O-N.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I was wrong.
I just had one more question.
Yeah, you bet.
Maybe the other commissioners can tell me. Does that include the old hospital?
Stearns?
And I just wondered if, I didn't quite understand the redevelopment stuff. Would that help redevelop the hospital if that were included?
I think the county, which owns the former hospital building, I know they would love to sell that building, and they'll sell it to any buyer who wants to buy it that can do a development that will fit within the zoning ordinance.
Is it helpful or not to have it included, that block included or not?
Because right now it's.
Right now, it's not.
It's not.
I'd probably leave it out,
Okay.
just to give the flexibility of what they want to do there.
All right, great. So our next,
I gotta take a drink. I gotta take a drink here of Gatorade. Otherwise, I'm gonna breathe fire. I'm seriously gonna breathe fire. What you're looking at right now is an email from John Shay, April of this year, who's trying to get funding to dredge that bayou because, again, if you're listening to Transparency 1, 2, 3, and 4, the intercounty drain didn't do their job. And that road, that Madison Avenue that you've seen, go back and take a look, busted through and spilled sewage into the bayou, brought the road in. It's all still sitting there. I'm hesitant to even bring up the government officials that tell us that just needs to be cleaned up. The city of Ludington, they just need to do that. But they do. They tell us that in the quiet. Now, I don't know how many times John Shay wants to be contradicted. Now, I told you I was going to burn July 18th of 2013 into your heads. And that's for you people in Ludington, Mason County. That's when everybody met. Let's just refresh our memories. So when everybody got together, Representative Bill Huizenga, United States House of Representatives, Director Keith Cray of the Department of Natural Resources, Ron Olson, Chiefs of Park and Recreation, one of the hardest working men in Parks and Recreation in United States history, was there. Chief of Operations Jason Fleming was there. Then Senator Jeff Hansen and his chief of staff was there. There really wasn't anybody missing. John Shay was there, the city manager. Former Mayor John Henderson, he was there. The Drain Commissioner, he was there. Were the other signees to the Intercounty Drain Commission or Intercounty Drain Commission there? No. No, they were not. So in this letter, in April 17th, that was sent, says all to all. This is talking about having a bunch of samples taken in that bayou. Now, we showed you pictures of the bayou earlier, and then hopefully we can get some photos in here that I took today. But they took borings out of the bottom of that bayou all over the place. We don't have the results of that today. Now, we just went through the midnight hour. It's 9/9/2015, September 9th of 2015. So from April to September, those samples that are supposed to take 2 or 3 weeks, we can't even get a response from this Joe Walchek. Called his number, left a message. He doesn't even call back. So we've contacted Barry Peterman out of the Cadillac office. Now, this Joe Walchek, let's just be clear, he's in Lansing. That's the capital of Michigan, if you didn't know that. For those of you that are coast to coast. The Cadillac office up north of Ludington. You know, us Michiganders, we use the palm of our hand, So, we look at it like this and like this, and we point it out. Well, Ludington's over here. That's how we do. Cadillac's up here. That's how we do it in Michigan. So we went to Barry Peterman. He is the field man for the DEQ, to ask him if he can get these results for us. So let's put some pressure on Barry Peterman. It's pretty easy to find the number. I'd give it out to you, but we don't want inundating with phone calls until the next video. If we don't start getting some results of people, if you people want to just go ahead and keep letting them pour the chemicals in the water that they need to, well, you just smell your water and drink it. That's all I got to say. I got hard water. I can smell my hard water. I got a well. They'll probably come out here to try to shut me down, but I'm really kind of kidding about that. But I'd much rather have my well water. So anyway, this John Shay continues to, at the end of it, he says, well, what do you want to do with this? You want to put this into your master plan? No, we don't want to put it in there, master. We don't want to put it in there. Well, in Transparency 4, That whole area was in the master plan. We've shown in the master plan where the city was going to go. We can show you from this map right here, meeting about developing Dowland Street down through here. And the master plan was to do that and to put in shops and through here, condominiums were a possibility. So to zoom in here, so we get just a good clear look of the fourth ward. Okay, so let's just say, because I'm not an expert, I lived on 4th Street for a while. So I've lived in the 4th ward, but we've heard people that talked about they lived in the 4th ward their whole life. And they've never heard that called Fishtown. And again, one commissioner says during her intern at City Hall, that's the first time she heard, first or last time she heard the term Fishtown was in City Hall. Now, in fairness to John Shay, it may have been when he wasn't there. But I guess we could ask her that. So, this is the 4th ward area. And so we do have some pictures. We'll get them set up and give you an idea of what another point that was brought out was the history. In Transparency 4, we talked about the history. Let's just review that. Let's go ahead and review that real quick. Okay, here we have the bayou. And we come down here and we have Ludington Municipal Marina and we have Harborview Marina. Built with your tax dollars. Folks, millions and millions of tax dollars was brought in there. We got an email from a gentleman that's a part of Mason County's government and talked about improving the recreational characteristics of Ludington. Well, that's what those marinas are. Remember, we talked about harbors of refuge. Those marinas are for recreational use only. Now, I did get the pictures put together, and we're going to go through the pictures and show you the pictures and what type of boats are in there. And did you hear Commissioner Ullman kind of laughing with another commissioner? I don't know that person's name. Laughing about how hard it might be for boats to get under the bridge with the water being higher. That's why I say this may be one of the saddest meetings that I've ever seen, or you may have ever seen, that people can laugh, actually laugh, that people are going out of business. So let's take a look at the pictures and let's just see what these marinas have done to the business. Now, this is the City of Ludington Municipal Marina. Now, this is a matching grant between the city and the DNR. This is a harbor of refuge that we've showed you on the maps in previous transparency screencasts. So we're going to move through these. Here's JJ Mack Charters. Advertised right out, driving by on the street. This is what you would see. This is basically from the sidewalk. You're 15 yards from the road. Now you're moving to the east to what's called Charter Boat Row. Now, here's fishing nets, okay, and the fishing poles that are up on these boats. Now here is a licensed charter boat. Willy Wonka. He's advertised. They can advertise in here. Now here we go, moving across. I got some extra photos. Now, back here we're seeing Charter Boat Row. And there's no charter boat sticker in this window. Normally they're placed right up in this window. But what's this intent? These are pole holders, fishing pole holders. If you haven't fished on these type of rigs, real world. So this is for fishing. Now, Shay of Ludington says that the Waterways Commission gave them permission. Well, we showed you the Waterways Commission doesn't have any authority to do that. The Parks and Recreation Director with the Director of the Department of Natural Resources shaking his head that he gave him the authority to go ahead and do this. Well, you have to amend the agreement. There's no amendments in these agreements. So these boats are in here illegally. It's just plain and simple. They're illegal. Now there's Charter Boat Row. They're supposed to have 8 charter boats, according to an authority that has no authority to give. But yet the DNR turns their head, even though we've put on transparency Attorney General opinions that these are for recreation. We've got minutes from Waterways Commission when the Waterways Commission had authority. We've covered every gamut of this. Now, why isn't the DNR covering the gamut? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that a charter boat? But look at how many boats we already saw. Now here we have a historical area. This is a beautiful, beautiful area. I could think of other uses for it if this was a recreational area. Now this is another marina. This is Harborview. This is built and paid for by taxpayer money. 100% taxpayer money leased out to a private corporation. Not a forever lease. But look at those boats. Do they look anything close or similar to the charter boats? Now let's keep in mind this is September. This is when the salmon have been moving into the rivers. Would these boats, I asked the question today, would these boats be in here if it wasn't that there were salmon in these waters? They've had all summer to fish for trout. Are these fishermen here, fishing people here to keep fishing for trout in these boats? These harbors of refuge were made for 26-foot boats and less. At the time that it was done, these boat-sized boats weren't even being considered. There were boats that were this size were purely recreational. This is a violation of the law. Now we heard the Planning Commission talking. Here's a closer shot. Now, you can make an argument. There's some pleasure craft in there. Sailboats. It should be full of sailboats. That's what should be coming in and out of there. That Spartan doesn't run. It's just sitting there. It's whatever you want to call it. It doesn't run. It won't. Probably never will. And then here's another picture, another angle from Harborview. Now you can look down and see the poles and outriggers from the boats. Again, this is supposed to have some type of history to do with fishing. Now, I could cut this picture, I could crop this picture, and you'd think it was a part of that, an extension of one of those two marinas. But this is the bayou that you saw on the map, that you saw Commissioner Holman laughing about how hard it was to get boats underneath that bridge. Kind of looks like a full marina to me. Looks like there's plenty of people coming in there to me. Well, don't hold your breath on it. This is the Lundy Boat Company. You heard in the Planning Commission that they've been around for 100 years, since 1895. A little more than 100 years. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 empty slips. Now, this is Tamarack. They have 1 boat. 1 boat. What used to take place here before the city marinas were even built, this is where it all took place. This is the history. The Planning Commission, they talked about history. Here's the history. You see these 2 tubes right here? We talked about this, the transparency. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This whole area right here, boom, boom, it got knocked out. All of this is laying in here, and it's moved all through here. And this drain serves on that map that I showed you in Transparency Part 4. Like a different angle from it? Doesn't look quite so full from here, does it? These are docks. And on the same side for Tamarack, those poor people, they can't, the reason they don't have any boats down here is because you can't get them in, because it's not deep enough. And the city manager, I don't know how, with a good conscience, that I could say that these people are responsible to clean out their mess. They can't clean this out. They can't dredge it. This sand is bringing contaminants from retail and industry that wasn't there in 1999 when that inter-county drain agreement, remember we showed you that inter-county drain agreement? We're not going to keep posting them up here. Transparency 4 goes through it in depth on the inter-county drain agreement. Who is responsible for that? The city of Ludington and the adjoining township, Pere Marquette Township, are the 2 majors. But there's 2 others. But anyway, this is where the history took place. Now, there's one other thing I like to bring out here. Let's go back to this map. This is Dowling Street, and right here is a bakery. They've been here for probably almost 100 years. And the railroad comes through here, and we went and we interviewed Mrs. McDonald. That's her name, McDonald's Bakery. And in the days back in the Depression and before, they used to fill up boxcars of bread from their bakery, and they fed across to Saginaw. They fed people with their bread. This was Ludington. Ludington Avenue, you see what they've done here? US 10, they've extended US 10 right through downtown. From right about here, you can see Lake Michigan. Right about there. So they put Lake US 10 in here, and now this is subject to US 10 zoning regulations. I think they outsmarted themselves on that one. However, my point is, that this was an area that anybody should hope to develop through here, especially through here. But there's a lot of contamination in here. So, folks, we're going to finish Transparency 5 right here. The Pere Marquette Lake Watershed Association is on its way. You can contact Ray's Marina at 231-425-8719. 231-425-8719. Or looking up in the phone book for Ray's Auto Marine in order to take some action. But to take action, you can't just take action if you're sitting in Oklahoma City or in North Dakota. You got to take action there too. This has got to be done across the country to send a message to all of our governors and to everybody that you got to quit doing to the people of reaching into their pocketbooks and taking out their money. We've got a lot more to go over next time. We're going to talk about this area, these lagoons. We're going to talk a little more history about how the harbors of refuge came about. We got a lot to talk about. But please, feel free to contact us. You can email raysmarina@gmail.com. That's raysmarina@gmail.com with any comments or questions. And please subscribe to Transparency. It's right down below here in the corner. Just click on that little red button and you'll be subscribed. And when we post a new video, you'll know about it. But you got to subscribe. So that's it for Transparency Part 5. You can leave comments on YouTube. Please don't be afraid. You can join us. You can let us have it. Doesn't matter. We're not going to take it down. Come one, come all. We're open-minded for your opinions, for your correction, and we're here for reproof. So until next time, goodbye, friends.